Welcome each and every one to another Soul Vibes. And thank you for your patience. I had a little bit of a technical difficulty, but I resolved it. It got resolved, and here we are in this beautiful space that we co-create together. For those that are new, my name is Alexis Sersha, and I welcome you each and every one to the Soul Vibes, which is a monthly program that we do every month, except for we had a bit of a Christmas break with this program. And it's just about feeling into, about coming here, about being present at our round table where we discuss all sorts of things to do with soul within the world as it is, within the energies that they are. And so, as we feel into this world, it is crazy as it is. It's gotten crazier, it gets crazier with every week. You know, there's so much going on, the time is quickening. All of the floor, the let's say the stability that people used to stand on and rely on, it keeps being pulled. The rug, this is an English expression, the rug keeps being pulled from underneath people's feet, so that they cannot really rely on things on the outside. You know, they cannot rely on what used to look so stable, what used to look like that, you know, it was going to exist forever and ever and ever. And now here we are in this space that each one of us has chosen to come to contribute, to co-create a little pocket of safety, a little pocket of breather that you know that it can sometimes feel easier to create as we are in a group like this, but that you can carry and establish and clarify and solidify inside of yourself, and that you can carry with you always. So that is the whole point of these experiences, to so that you can keep being more and more in touch with yourself, with this part of you, with your essence, so that you can always feel that connection regardless of what everyone else outside there, everyone in the world is doing. And so let us all come here, including me, because there is nothing like having a bit of technical difficulties just before the episode starts. So for me too, I come here, I breathe, and I come into this presence. Whose presence? My own presence. And so it is that we are here, exactly where you are, exactly where you're sitting, where you're standing. Perhaps you're lying down, but exactly feel your body where it is, its position. Orient yourself where you are. And then as you're feeling your body relaxing, really feel it relax, feel like this beautiful ripple, this beautiful wave flowing through it and relaxing into this space. And you feel that as you're doing that, as you're experiencing that, the time slows down for you. And all of a sudden you find that the time stretches, there is more space. And you find that you can breathe deeper, that your body relaxes, that your awareness expands, it becomes wider. And you realize that both on the inside of you, in your inner world, and on the outside of you, there is more spaciousness. There is space for safety and love. Create space, not only around you, not only on the inside of you, but between things. You notice that that there is space between something that happens on the outside and from the time that you can react to that. You have more space. It's not like immediate, so that you just react to something unconsciously. When you are with yourself, when you open up in this way, when you just be in the moment by moment, then you realize that it's kind of like the space expands, and you have time to choose. Something happens, whether it's on the inside or whether it's on the outside. And you realize that you have time to choose, time to think, time to decide on which course, how you're going to respond. And so you no longer react, but you would respond to things from your own choice. And so let us go on to this journey now, deeper inside of yourself, to clarify more on the inside. And we travel now. We travel, and yet we're not going anywhere, really. That's the contradiction, seeming contradiction. Both are true. And so we start off, so if we've been in, being part of this world, perhaps you've had a job, perhaps there are certain responsibilities and things that you as a human being participate in, have to be part of, that cause you perhaps stress, tension, and all of these things. Perhaps just noticing and reading the news, even if you don't choose to read them, you get to know all of the things that are happening out in the crazy world. And so you notice that there is a specific room, perhaps. Notice where you are in your body, inside of your inner space, when you experience that, when the world is pressing in, when there are all of these definitions and classifications and rules on how you should be, what you should think, what you should feel, that say you should be useful, you should not create things as much, but you should produce things. You should do things with goals and rules, and be useful. And you're measured. You notice in this room that you are measured by what you produce, by the quality, perhaps not even by the quality. For in this crazy world, the quality is not measured by what is really quality. There are different rules as to what is considered worthy, what is considered not worthy. In this space also, there are a lot of games. There are a lot of power games, powerlessness games, and all of the dark psychology, the psychology that says that makes you feel small, that makes you not only feel small, but internalize that perhaps you are less than, that perhaps others are above you. These are subtle games, perhaps for some that are observant, not so subtle. You can see how perhaps you've noticed with particular specific people, how straight away as you start talking to them, the way they talk, it is making you smaller in relation to them. This is hierarchy. Perhaps it is also how you unconsciously relate with others, that you deem smaller or less than that yourself. And so these are not things to be ashamed of, or to sort of put with guilt. For in the clarity, in the soul's clarity, the freedom that it affords is to be clear, to see what is what, who is who you have in front of you, so that you can see them with clarity, and not through filters of expectations, or perhaps wishful thinking, or fluffiness. Perhaps in your other times you needed that to put this kind of filter and this to try and put distance between what was. But as you are more and more infused with your soul, what that brings is the ability to be clear, just to see things as they are. For you are clear in yourself, you have that connection to your soul always. And so there is nothing to prove, there is nothing to fight with another, there is nothing to to prove to another, to make them believe, to put them up or down. For it can be all in neutral in this way. And yet in this room where we are at the moment, in this room, let's say, of productivity, of where the world, mostly majority of the world, tends to live in, you are supposed to be useful. You are supposed to make yourself of use all the time. You are supposed to value yourself according to that use that you produce. And so there's nothing to do in this room at the moment. We just notice things as they are. And we notice that this is just one room inside of ourselves, that perhaps many people, it is the only room where many people live, that many people think that this is their whole world, this one room. And so they identify with this completely. Perhaps some people identify completely with their job. Some people may identify completely with being a parent, with being whatever, a carer, any of these things where you are useful. And this belongs. It is a real room, a real space. And it is also a space where you can then operate within this world that we live in, that we exist in. For each one of us does need to pay bills, does need to be practical, does need all of these things. For there are some traditions that perhaps did not work out as well, that said, no, we have to put this room down, we have to shut it out, try to eject this room out of the reality. And yet what happens then? You can't deal with your reality very well, or you have to go deeper into games and manipulation, where you need then others to support your life rather than you standing up in your own sovereign self. And it is not, so this room belongs, there are times when one needs the support because it is a give and take. So there are many perspectives and many times of life, in many situations where we relate to all of these rooms of self in a different way. You see how even just in this time that we've had together, we've looked at this one single room from so many different perspectives. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. It is just the nature of being multidimensional, and being able to turn on the inside in many different ways, many different perspectives, so that you can look at every perspective. You look at things in a different way, and you also have different questions then that arise from that different perspective. And so once you can see these things, then you also can tell how a person is turned on the inside, which room they reside in, whether they're spacious, whether they have access, and whether they've realized they have many rooms by the questions they ask, by the wonderings that they have. You see, it is not, these things are very obvious once you can, for the one that can see, for the deep, this as deep as you can see in yourself. That's how deep you can see into the world, and that's how deep you can see in other people. And it is not in some way like a privacy breaching, because the more you can see, the deeper you can see in others. But the deeper you go in yourself, the doorways ask, that those thresholds ask for real things, ask for real transformations, ask for real changes in yourself. And the real changes, the ticket to get through thresholds, soul's thresholds, have to do with humbleness, with integrity, with love, with self-love, with kindness, with all of these things. And so the deeper these things allow you to walk through thresholds that are not visible until you actually really integrate things like gratitude, real humbleness. And it is not, none of these things actually work unless they are real. And these are the safeties on these thresholds that do not let you through until you are actually have integrated the key that allows you then to unlock, to open that door and to walk through that threshold into the bigger room. So in this way, it is very, very funny, like humorous in this way, that when you are the smallest on the inside, it is then that you wish to have to see into other people because you don't feel safe, and you think that, okay, you can manipulate and control others in this way. But in reality, you never see beyond that one room until you transform and change. And then as you're able to expand on the inside, with, of course, with it then comes a complete, not interest in this, but complete respect for other people, and also compassion and empathy, because you know you've been there, you know what that feels like. And when you have transformed it with self-love, then you don't seek to control or manipulate by using those things. It's sort of just these kind of things just go out of your toolbox, so to speak. And so we're still in this one room, aren't we? And yet we've covered so many things already. And so we can now notice, if you will, that this room has a doorway. And notice that you can actually now open that doorway, for you have the key. And for some, you've already had this doorway has been unlocked for a while. You've unlocked it a long time ago. And then we step into the hallway. And in this hallway, you see there are many rooms. And for some, you've unlocked and opened many rooms. There are all sorts of different rooms where you step in that serve a different purpose. Just like in a house, in your home, you have a living room, you have perhaps a bedroom, bathroom, kitchen. Or if you don't have rooms, you might have all the more modern, where a lot of these things are in the same space. Perhaps your living room and bedroom are the same in one space. Perhaps your bedroom and office are one room. Who knows? It matters not. But still, you may have like a space for the desk, or space for the bed, space for all of these things. This is up to you and your soul, as to how you arrange your inner home. Where is what? But initially, as you're exploring, you find that there are rooms, and then you find a way to get in. What particular room, what key needs to unlock the door, or perhaps many rooms you already unlocked without even being aware of, and you can just freely walk in. And you realize that in each room, you feel there's a different scent, there's a different flavor, it serves a different purpose, and you can change with that. And yet still, there are certain principles, so to speak, that belong to each of these rooms. Principles, because at the moment we're still in the same level of the house, let's say. And so then you realize there are different levels in this house. There's not just one story, that this house has a number of stories. And perhaps as you found the stairs to go up and down, you find that also the laws change as you change the levels of these stories, of the sections of the house. And every time that a new space opens to you, you may wonder whether this space was there already before you entered, or has it just appeared as you've entered and it's never been before, and now you can furnish it. Some spaces already have furniture and are up for you to notice what is in there. What kind of sense, what kind of senses, what kind of feelings are in that space where you are now, where you find yourself right now? Is it contentment? Is it tenderness? Or is it perhaps you may be in a room that includes a lot of anger, a lot of rage? For if you've done the work, that too is part of the work, to face these intense emotions that meet you in these spaces as you explore your own inner self. For the more you have spent, the more time that you have spent, the more that you felt forced to be, the more time that you've spent in those first small rooms where things are imposed from the outside, from the parents, from the society, from the culture, from the media, from the partner, from whom we are all exposed to these. If you've spent a lot of time identifying with that, you've then also spent a lot of time suppressing parts of who you really are also. And so for those that are just starting, there may be a lot of rage there, a lot of anger, especially also because humanity in general is experiencing very intense emotions at the moment, with all that has been revealed, with all that has been coming to light, with the lack of justice, with perhaps feeling powerless, and all of these things. So how do you reconcile all of that? By dealing with what you encounter inside of your own self. That is how you deal with all of these things. And then out of that, you may act or choose not to act, or do whatever you do or not do in a physical world as well. For you can, we talked about creating this space where not only then you can then see what is in front of you, whether on TV, on media, or whatever, or in a person-to-person relationship, or whatever that you're dealing with. You can see it. You can allow yourself to see it with clear eyes, because it is only then that you can actually then really deal with it, that you can then make real choices. For if you have fuzziness and mist in between what is in front of you, you cannot really and accurately deal with that. And so, but why are you able now to deal with that? And then we're still traveling to that space inside of you that gives you those abilities of clarity, of being able to see things as they are. And so here we are, still traveling, exploring the house. And perhaps This house has many, many levels, many stairs. It has a dungeon. It has a cellar. It has an attic. We don't have to visit all of the places. And this house, in this way, it's actually quite magical because it doesn't matter how long you spend exploring and expanding and enjoying the spaciousness of your inner self. There's always more to discover. This is the magic, the mystery, and the wonder of being a soul-filled human, a human that allows their soul connection, because it's that allows you to be able to see with this kind of inner eyes, with this kind of inner senses. And so now that we've explored the house and we've realized there's so much here that we can explore as we will, as we wish, we come perhaps to the front door. And then, look, you've got the key and you know how to open this door, and you realize, wow, you step out into the sun and you realize not only that I have a house, the inner house, my home, you also have a whole garden. And wow, that's a whole new space to explore, to see what's there, to feel what is there to feel, to touch what is there to touch, to notice the abilities that you find all over this inner space. Well, every room has new abilities, every space, the garden carries your new abilities that you perhaps on the first walk through don't even notice. But then the second or third or fifth time you notice what's there and you go, oh, look at this, what is that? And then you slowly find out and you see how you can integrate that ability, that skill into your life, into your larger life. And so you've got your garden. For those that haven't explored your garden, this is something when you take that time for yourself, perhaps in the morning when you wake up and you take time in that beautiful space to explore these spaces of yourself. Perhaps you take more time during the day, or when you go for a walk, when you listen to music, put your headphones on, whatever, however that you find that space for yourself. For without that space, you don't have time to explore all of these things on the inside of you. And so now that we're outside, you realize, wow, there is a gate out there. Not only do I have a garden, but there is more. There is a gate and there's a local community that I can also explore. And then in this local community, we're talking on the inside of you. There are all sorts of things to explore, to find. Again, all sorts of surprises in this spaciousness of yourself. And then, of course, you notice that there are bigger things. You notice that there is endless sky. You also notice that there is wilderness. And you also notice that perhaps if you've never traveled there on your own, for you were told, don't go there. Oh my goodness, the wilderness, it will destroy you. It will kill you. It's dangerous. It is. For someone who hasn't yet explored those inner spaces, for notice that we've gone through all the different layers. And on the way, even though we're doing it quite in a fast way right now, but when you take your time to explore, you find all the abilities and skills that may enable you to deal with every next stage, every next doorway, every next threshold on the inside that you step through. And so by the time that you come to the wilderness of your own self inside of you, you know how to handle yourself. You know how to deal with it. And yet, once you start walking and playing in this wilderness, of course, it will teach you its own wisdom. It will whisper things to you. You will start owning that space, not in the ownership like what the crazy world does, owns things. For in the crazy world, very often you find that for example, love is equated with something like, okay, I see a butterfly. Wow, it's beautiful butterfly. Let me catch it. Let me put it in a jar so it dies, suffocates and dies, and let me put a pin through it and put it on this beautiful board and hang it on the wall. For some people, when they say, I love butterflies, this is what they mean. For some people, this is not what love means at all. This is something else masking as love. For love carries real love. And when you learn what real love is the soul connection. For the soul teaches you to this love, this spaciousness, this ability to allow another, when in this case your own self, to feel spacious, to feel free, to not be imprisoned. For when you learn the depths and the language and the flavors of love, it is actually very different to what the world calls love. And you only get to know it because you spend time in these spaces of yourself. And in exploration of yourself. And in this wilderness of your own self, you realize that it's in here that you can first, perhaps for the first time, come in touch with this essence of you, with what we call the soul. For the soul is wild, and it also does. It also is at home in all other spaces, including that first room that we were in. When you allow it to infuse, to come in with you in all of these spaces, in all of your rooms, it is at home. For all of these spaces are part of itself, and yet it is not. It's only a part of itself. That all of these, no matter how vast and how huge these spaces are, this endless sky, that you, as once you were a smaller human, and you keep expanding and expanding. And so even though perhaps, let's say, you've been expanding in yourself for many years, and you feel, and if you remember, oh wow, 20, 30 years ago, I was living in such a small space of myself. And now look, all of the freedom I have. I can visit and freely go to all these different parts of myself. And yet, this is tiny from the perspective of your own soul. For your soul exists outside of time and space, not only inside. Only a part of itself is ingressing into the physical world, but it lives outside of time and space. And so the most how can I say, the attributes that in many ways, for me personally, most resemble the essence of the soul in many ways, is first the wilderness. And it is interesting that if you look at the journey from the first cell into this complex life form that we are, there was wilderness first, and then all the different tradition, all the different communities of cells and life and traditions and cultures arose out of that. But why is that? Because this is where creativity lives, in this incredible unbridled freedom, in this incredible unbridled self-determination, in this incredible contentedness, being so content and one with the rest, with life, so in touch with everything. So these are attributes for the soul. And so as you then invite, then let's say we hang out in this wilderness for a bit, in this pure creative space where the moon plays with the pond's water, where the stars reflect freely, where the wind breezes through the leaves and the creatures just all go about their business. The business of their own self that comes from the inside of themselves, just like for yourself, this freedom to be walking to the beat of your own inner drum. And so now as we turn back from this wilderness, as we feel this, we carry this with us into the community, into our garden, into our house, into every room that we visit. For this too is the one way to describe as to how we touch our soul and then allow it to come with us then back into our human life. All of it, all of the rooms, including the rooms that looked so small before, that may have felt so imprisoning, that it may have felt so constrictive, and yet we bring our soul with us into all of the rooms. And then slowly but surely, this presence infuses all of it. And we keep turning the way we look at things, and we keep changing our perspectives. And so then all of the rooms become spacious. All of the rooms become infused with the freedom, with this inner self-sufficiency, not because you don't ever need anyone else anymore, but it is this vertical alignment where your sustenance comes from your own inner self, and you have this pipeline, this pathway always to the depths of your own self, and it always nourishment and nurturing and all of this flows freely into your own life as a human. And in this way, of course, this does take, for a human is part of space and time. And it does take, a while to see real changes, as each one of you know. But, again, is how you are turned. If you take moments and you keep reminding yourself, and if the world knocks you over back into its way of looking at things, you can then, of course, you have to practice this to keep coming back home into this beautiful spaciousness, into this beautiful safety, into this beautiful self-loving, self-caring kindness to your own self. And, really, if we look at everything else, this pretty much is the secret to a whole journey, really. It's pretty much this. Is in allowing, is in mastering how to not let the ways of the world, shallow world, to command the way you are on the inside. And then, of course, it also spills into the rest of the world, into your life, I mean, into your life first and then the rest of the world. And the challenge is because we are in a this earthly life is it's got a purpose uh, for your own soul as a consciousness. It is not here just willy-nilly. You are not here willy-nilly. You are here in a sense, many things, but one of the major things is to practice these skills, to practice your mastery, to realize in this sea of the distractions of these such powerful forces that are constantly pressuring each one of us to forget, to give in to doubt, to all of these other things that the world of people is so happy to push on you. For we have help, we have animals, we have plants, the trees, the nature, the elements, the ocean, the sun, the moon. They know. They know. And so if you need help, even if you don't have another human being next to you, feel the elementals. Like, let's say you are in a city and you feel the pressure of the world, of human world, and start feeling your body. Feel perhaps the breeze gently touching your skin, the hairs on your skin. Perhaps you can hear the birds singing and talking to themselves. These are there that will remind you to come. And then you have to take that plunge into belief, into the belief that yes, my truth is that I'm a soul being. My truth is that I am at home in myself. My truth is that I am self-loving. My truth is that I have many, many rooms within me, that I have all of these larger spaces and the connection with my soul, which changes, for example, creativity in a way that you don't even use this word in your own life, perhaps anymore. For your whole, the way you live, the way you talk, the way you look at things, the way you organize your life, that is the way you relate with people is creativity in motion, where this creativity comes from that wilderness space. And that is why it is important to keep space for wilderness, because the physical is the same. It's a reflection. The outer is a reflection of the inner. It is important to have that space to remind us of the soul, of the attributes of it, so that you can feel them then and claim them and own them on the inside of yourself. And these are your protections, so to speak, against that doubt, against the pressures of the crazy world, against the injustices and all of these things that people are feeling. For they are not your truth. And yet at the same time, with this support, this inner support of your soul self, you are for the first time perhaps able to actually look at these things with straight eye. You're able to look at them just as they are, not even trying to fix them, not even trying to change them, not any of that, just to see them. And these things on the outside, they know they are seen. Perhaps they are people, perhaps they manifest in your life as a particular people. Like for all of us, perhaps certain leaders and of countries and the billionaires and the millionaires and all of these things. And perhaps it doesn't matter how they come, but you're able to see them. And you know it, and they know that they are being seen. And what they do with this, it's up to them. Or it is the sight, the how can I say, um, our universe from the smallest to the largest is created from it depends on viewing on the sight, on the observer in many ways. So for those that perhaps are familiar with quantum physics, let's say, you know that the quantum particle, well, it's not a particle, that the particles of light in quantum physics is a wave and a particle, which means it is either a wave like what you see on the water, and then it becomes a particle like an atom, a basis for material world when it's being observed. It is a wave, and then when it's observed, it becomes a particle. So this tells us that everything wishes to be observed. And everything knows that it is when it's observed. And what it does with that, it depends also on the observer. So then you can ask yourself, perhaps you wish to ponder on this and see if it makes sense to you. And perhaps notice the difference that it makes when you see people, when you see others, when you see animals. Perhaps you have a dog or a cat or other creatures, how they enjoy being seen when it is safe to be seen, when they feel safe to be seen. Because it is this gaze, and you know, for those that are perhaps psychologists, you're familiar with the parent's gaze on a child. Is it approving gaze? Is it a disapproving gaze? All these things matter. Is your gaze, is your viewing of the world? Do your eyes portray love and kindness when you view the world? And also, do they portray perhaps clarity when you see things that are not acceptable? For love is not blind. It sees things, for it wishes for everything and everyone to be well. And so it doesn't hide when it sees something that is not just, that is not loving, that is perhaps very sick. It does not ask to be fluffy in those times. It just asks for eyes that can see things as they are. It does not even ask for you as an individual to try and change anything. Sometimes all is needed is a clarity of sight, is a clarity of hearing, is a clarity of sensing, is a clarity of touching. And so I invite each one to play with this, for there are many things in here that do not have answer. Some things they just need to be played with. I certainly don't have answers to give you for everything in this way, for there are many things that perhaps are just true for me. Some things are true for yourself. It is not that we all have to hold the same truth, but we can experiment with these things. We can play with these things. We can be spacious with these things and see what happens. See the conclusions that you come to yourself as an individual. For this is what we are tasked in this way by our consciousness. So if we kind of look at, the way I kind of sort of see this in this, that makes sense to me, is that there was that one that was one, and then some change happened, something happened, and it exploded itself like a big bang into many individuals, the sparks of consciousness that we each one are, individual, unique, different. For that one that was one wanted to relate to itself, wanted to experience itself in all the different possibilities and versions and things. And so each one, whether that is true or not, it doesn't matter. It creates a narrative, a bigger picture. It fits, it ticks a lot of boxes for me. So that's why I kind of am able to loosely hold this kind of view, because if it ticks the boxes, it's very likely to be close to something that works. If it doesn't tick any boxes for you, it doesn't matter, because we are each one, create your own story that makes sense to you. You probably most likely have your own story anyway, but it is about being unique and being okay with that. And this too, the world is saying, no, we all have to be the same, where it's easy to control if we're all the same. But this creativity that stems from each of our own inner wild spaces it's very unique to each one. And when we are true to that, when we express that, each one has our own unique view, which then honors consciousness. For this is what it's asked each one of us to be just who we are. And in the crazy world, this is actually the opposite. We're not, we're told we're not okay just as we are, especially because we don't fit certain standards, certain shapes, certain directions, certain rules. But in the wellness of yourself, when you are connected with your soul self, it is being your own authentic, spontaneous self in this way that honors, that truly honors yourself and your soul, your consciousness. And this is again a dance with the world as we live in, as we each live in a community of other people, of things we have to do. So this is an artful dance. It's not an either or. If you, let's say you go to a shop, of course you perhaps can't express every inclination that you might have, because there are certain rules. But I find that this is not, I used to have this fear, or I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to be spontaneous and authentic and then still go to a shop, for example, or go to a party or a gathering or anywhere where there's other people, or just drive a car on the road, for it needs rules. But I find that, again, this is that subtlety of actually spending to get to know your own divinity, your own essence, your own soul. You realize that it is not unreasonable, for it is concerned with your own well-being, your exuberance, your joy. And it is not in the interest of your own well-being to create problems while you're driving, to have accidents. It doesn't work in that way at all. So that fear that I had is gone, because I know that the soul knows the world that we live in, that I live in, I as a soul, I as a human. And it knows that that we live in with other people, with certain rules, with certain regulations. So the subtlety of this is that it it transforms. You can transform things that feel uh, imprisoning, unfree. But this doesn't mean that you actually break some arbitrary rules. For being free in this way, that you're in touch with your own soul, that you're joyful, that you're peaceful, that you're loving yourself, that you let go of doubt and things like that, that you heal your own self. This is the real revolution, the radicalness of being, not if you know, not going out on the streets and creating some chaos. As a soul being, there's no interest in that. Even though at times, you know, when I sort of went through certain things and I realized how the ridiculousness of the whole games that I thought I needed to be part of, you know, sometimes I had this urge to just sit down somewhere, anywhere, and laugh as a clown, you know, and at just an absurdity of the whole thing. And yet I didn't have to do that, because there is that space and you realize, okay, so do I wish to do this, or do I choose, even though I feel to do this, do I choose something else? And I chose something else. I didn't sit down and laugh with absurdity in the public space, but when I came home, I danced in this way and laughed at absurdity. You see, so because it's not like that, creative way of living spontaneously and authentically, it is not a stupid way to live. It's not some meaning, you don't do stupid things that would harm you. This is actually quite the opposite. um, it is when you're disconnected that you do stupid things, from the sense of things that harm you. That when I say stupid things, that's what I mean. Things that harm you and perhaps harm others. But when you're filled with soul, that's not what you're choosing. You could, like, the whole plethora of choices is open to you, but you just don't choose that anymore, because you, inside of you, you mature, you're about well-being. And so you realize, because your sight and all your senses and your beingness expand into all these different layers that are invisible, you realize that you have many, many more choices to what was apparent before. You know, like if you're unawakened human being, you just perhaps think, oh, the choice is either just this or that, or perhaps you don't think you have any choice at all. But the more you open, the more you have depth and width and this spaciousness. And the more there are pathways, the more there are turns and choices and different things. And so that in every situation, you don't actually have to act in a harmful way, not to yourself, not to others. But at the same time, you are very perceptive as to who you have in front of you, and whether they mean you harm. But this, for me personally, Alexis, this was one of the big lessons of my life, because I used to believe the fluffy thing that, oh, everyone's just coming out from the best intentions, they just don't know it, and all of these things. And perhaps in some deep, deep, deep layers of themselves, that's true. But now I can see, if I have someone very harmful in front of me, I recognize them and I don't close my eyes. I don't maybe perhaps have to tell them, but quietly I act on being able to see that, for the safety of myself, if not for them. And in some ways, this too can be a lesson for them, for people not to fall under their spell. For there are many, many people that do wish harm to others. And whether in some other lifetime they too are on this kind of path, first to a soul being, but some, many, certainly are not on that path in this lifetime that they have. And this too has to be clearly seen with clarity and then acted on with that knowingness. And this too is the ability that the soul, presence of soul brings. For soul does not fluff things up in this way, it brings clarity. And clarity is not always pretty, because that's why many call, the word awakening, because you awaken to a lot of ugliness that you didn't see before, but now you can act, and within all of that you can create pocket of your own paradise. And then your energy then invites, and perhaps your actions also invite others to create that for themselves, to do their work or not, whatever their choice is. But they too have their own soul somewhere in there, but they have to do that work for their own self. And so being awake, walking a soul-filled life is in many ways actually quite different to what perhaps I thought that it would be, many, many years ago. But is it worth it? Oh my gosh, yes, it is worth it. And not only that it is worth it, but yeah, I feel compassion for people that find themselves, unawakened. But at the same time, then looking at all of these, like we talked about at the beginning, how the rug is being pulled from underneath people. It is life saying, wake up, wake up. For all of the people today have in their purview, in their vicinity, the information needed to help them on this journey home on the inside, home to themselves, if they so choose. And so I'm going to have my drink now. And so, dear friends, we've come to the end of this beautiful journey that we've been on today. Thank you, each one, for participating, for joining, and for those that are new. So, because it's late in the evening here where I am, so please afford me 24 hours to put the video, the recording on the website, and I will email you the link so you can have a replay of this episode. And again, thank you to each and every one. And until next time, namaste.